Greetings from Semillas, a working-class think tank and action center. And this is our weekly news and review broadcast for the week of June 8th through 14th, 2026. The news and review is from a working-class perspective. Our interests are different, often completely different from the ruling elite, those that control the news media, those that own the news media, and only give us one particular version of the news. And we try to provide you with the most important news events, but from the perspective tied to working class interests. Today, the most important issue remains the war with Iran and how it impacts everything else that is going on in the world, especially the cost of living for American families. Last week, President Trump said things were moving along fine in negotiations to end the war with Iran. Then, by the weekend, Israel and Iran were attacking each other over Lebanon. And Trump personally instructed Israel to back off so as not to risk our own ongoing negotiations with Iran. But by Monday and Tuesday, all hell had broken out between the United States and Iran again. There's a massive, renewed escalation of the war. Again, the United States bombs Iranian facilities. Iran retaliates with drones and strategic missiles, targeting bases that belong to the United States but are stationed throughout the various nations. And there are various nations there, such as Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan was targeted last night, I believe, Saudi Arabia, Israel. So again, this seems to be a version of that old movie that you may have watched called Groundhog's Day, where there are things that keep repeating over and over again, and there seems to be no way out of this mess. The current excuse for hostilities revolves around the claim that a U.S. Apache helicopter was shot down yesterday. But in actuality, if you listen to President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's statements, it seems that this is almost a purposeful change in policy. This helicopter seems to have been placed in harm's way to cause a further escalation. But the fundamental problem is that the situation is a ticking time bomb. Because as we've mentioned repeatedly in past broadcasts, the materials that are stuck on the other side of the Hormuz Strait, 15 million barrels of oil per day are stuck, missing from the world economy. Fertilizers, chemicals, various things that are required in the Asian production economy have come to a halt. But that brings us to the economic front. The Bureau of Labor Statistics announced this Wednesday that inflation is now increasing at a much faster rate, clocking in at 4.2% in May, as opposed to 3.8% in April. And that is leading to massive price increases that American families are all aware of. Gas, food, housing, insurance, you name it. Everything is going up. And the possibility that we're just at the beginning stages. What could possibly go wrong here? At the same time, there was an announcement that Social Security will end up going bankrupt at the end of 2032, much earlier than already predicted. So add that up to the over $39 trillion national debt that we as taxpayers already face. Again, it's all part of the problem that Semillas has been trying to point out. War and debt are principal issues facing the American public today. Switching over, what's been happening on the U.S. political front? Is there any hope of change there after the recent elections? Well, in California, we still haven't even finished counting the ballots yet. 10 days later after the election. But some very disturbing trends are emerging as we speculate why California, the richest state in the United States, can't wrap this thing up. The New York and California Posts are running exposés on how voters on LA's Skid Row are being paid to vote, and that may be the reason why mayoral challenger Spencer Pratt won a place in the runoff election last Tuesday, only to find out that the surge of late ballots over the past few days has now disqualified him from the runoff in November. So much energy, so much money is placed into these elections every 2 years. And just what does the American public get in return? For California, Javier Becerra, ex-congressman and former Health and Human Services Director under Joe Biden, won last Tuesday's primary and has emerged as the most probable to be elected as governor in November. But be assured that Becerra will be scrutinized for the healthcare fraud debacle that has emerged over the past years, where hundreds of billions of dollars have been pilfered under his watch. In fact, Mr. Becerra has doubled down on reinstituting Governor Newsom's program of free healthcare to all undocumented immigrants. This program has been largely canceled due to the $9 billion price tag it cost to the state. But Becerra says he's all in. How will he do this when the state is facing severe financial problems? What we find in these elections is that the American population is being offered two very flawed options, the Democrats and Republicans, neither side representing anything remotely close to the interests of working class families in America. For instance, did you notice the Senate race between Graham Plattner and Susan Collins in Maine? A very flawed Democrat running in hopes of tipping the balance in the United States Senate against Susan Collins, a diehard supporter of Israeli military aggression. Not much choice for Americans. The News and Review asserts that it's the war and debt that are the two greatest factors confronting the American working people today. In the Middle East, we are watching the continuation of a 100-year-old campaign of domination by the West. First Britain, then the United States, and now Israel and the United States combined for control over vital resources in those nations. The real story this week is that failure to get out of Iran means massive bottlenecks continue for the entire world economy. Oil, fertilizer, chemicals, aluminum, all needed for production, and they will have increasing impacts as time goes by. Once again, Trump has only two choices: tactical retreat, meaning get out now and actually go back to normality, or strategic defeat, risk it all in a misguided hope of military victory. How bad can it get? This week, a report from the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons says that the world is entering into a new nuclear arms race with major increases on the part of all nuclear-armed countries this year, with the United States leading them all. What could possibly go wrong with this? America is at a crossroads, and the working class has no hopes for political leadership coming from the two parties that created this mess in the first place. Democrats and Republicans, the parties of war and destruction, the parties serving the financial oligarchy. Semillas is a working class think tank and action center. Our goal is to provide you with the information and education you need to become a better leader in your own community, and together, we, the majority of this nation, will forge a new path forward. Please stay with us. Like, subscribe, contact us, and help us financially sustain this path forward. And until next week, this has been the Semillas News and Review.
Semillas Community Center is a working class think tank and action center. We have a plan, sowing the seeds of transformation.